Thank you, Mark, and a big hello from London. A more interesting week last week for weekly patterns than in recent times. Plus, we had the longer-term monthly patterns for May as well. So starting with the weekly patterns, and we had an interesting weekly key reversal down last week in the US dollar index. That has not been sustained this week, though the reaction move back up is still within last week's range. What I found interesting about it was that there were no weekly key reversals in any of the major currency pairs. None. We did have a weekly key reversal down in Euro Swiss, but only just last week. But that ought not to have had much impact on the US dollar index. Plus, we had a contrarian weekly key reversal up last week in US dollar Mexican peso, which did not help the cause of the bearish US dollar index. In both cases, for the Euro Swiss and the US dollar Mexican peso, we have seen reactionary moves in the opposite direction to last week's weekly key reversals. Altogether, an interesting and somewhat puzzling situation. There were no other weekly patterns in FX, the stock indexes or stock index futures I follow, nor in fixed income futures. So it's straight on to the commodities. And we had some interesting weekly key reversals last week in Chicago soybean oil futures, in Winnipeg canola futures, and I suppose you could also include in this EX butter futures, if only just on the latter. Chicago soybean oil has seen a lovely follow-on higher, with the market making new highs not seen since June 2022, and close to achieving one of 3 pattern targets at 78.45. I'll cover this market more fully in tomorrow's oilseed and veg oil video technical analysis market commentary. Winnipeg canola futures have likewise had a more than suitable follow-on higher this week, already reaching the primary target at 773 even, and moving up to the next pattern target up at 810.60. I likewise cover this more fully in my weekly oilseed and veg oil video technical analysis commentary tomorrow. EEX butter futures have also had a follow-on move higher, but at a more sedate pace. Now, we also had a weekly key reversal up in SGX SICOM TSR20 rubber futures last week. This has seen a more than satisfactory move higher this week into new highs, ones not seen since January 2017. Over now to EX German Power Base Month futures, which had a weekly key reversal up last week, which this week has seen attempts for higher prices, but the attempts have been limited. And though we are higher this week than last Friday's close, it is nonetheless not overly inspiring right now. Finally, we had a weekly key reversal up in NYMEX Henry Hub NatGas futures last week. This had an early attempt higher this week on Monday, but finished the day lower. And we haven't really done much more than that, though prices are still towards the top 1/3 of last week's range. Now, let's look at the longer term monthly patterns for May. And in the currencies, we had only the one, a monthly key reversal down in sterling rand. In this one, well, we haven't done much of anything, with prices still around where they finished last month. No fixed income ones here, but we did have a monthly key reversal down in a specific stock last month. In GameStop, GME of the US. This has seen attempts at a follow-on lower in June, making lows this week not seen since mid-January. On to the metals, and these were the only commodities that I cover that I saw monthly key reversals in May. And we had a monthly key reversal down in LME steel scrap Turkey, which had a monthly key reversal down in May, and has now started to see the beginnings of a move lower after a tentative start last Monday. And by contrast, spot platinum, which had a monthly key reversal down in May, but has chosen to sit round about where we finished in May, which is admittedly towards the lower end of the monthly range for May. As always, I'm happy to answer any direct questions of anyone who's interested. And that will finish this section from London. I hope that you found these comments useful. Thank you for watching and listening. This weekly broadcast gives the essential market patterns and consequences. Please be aware of the risk disclaimer posted both at the front and at the back of this broadcast. Copyright is Eddie Tofpick and ADM Investor Services International Limited. And here comes the final important bit.